Viewers, welcome to the Personal Injury Law Show. This is a show that talks about everything current in the law of personal injuries and obviously of importance to you, the viewer. My name is Tony Carbone. I'm a personal injury lawyer with 30 years experience. With me tonight I've got Stephanie Ng, who's a senior work cover lawyer at Nowicki Carbone. Good evening, Steph.
Good evening, Tony. Good evening, viewers.
And also the effervescent and delightful Vivienne Ryan. She's a former lawyer and director of Gravia Media. Good evening, Viv.
Thanks, Tony. Good evening, viewers. Hello, Steph.
Tonight, viewers, we've got a riveting episode. We've got a former client of Nowicki Carbone who's going to tell us his experience dealing with the work cover system. So it's absolute must to see.
Well, I'm very excited to hear more about that. But before we get into that, Tony, what's in the news? I know you've woken up with, quite a lot of energy around
Vivienne,
the violence.
Steph, what it isn't in the news. But the first thing I want to start off with, viewers, is this ongoing violence. It's a rampage out there, Viv. It's absolutely out of control. Recently, around Moomba time, we had the Apex gang that cut loose in the city, attacked people at random.
Tragic.
It is tragic. And Steph, they put out the images of three ringleaders. They apparently handed themselves in. They bailed them, and guess what? They're out there doing it again.
So how old are these guys, Tony?
They're young. They're 18, 15, 16. I mean, I know that you can't just lock them up, but Steph, what do you think?
Yeah, it's shocking. But what I think, when they got into jail the first time or got into trouble, there should have been a bit more education. There should have been a bit more rehabilitation so this wouldn't happen again.
I'm absolutely astounded that when these matters get to court, right, all we're talking about is mitigating circumstances of the perpetrator. We never hear about the poor victims. I mean, what about their mitigation?
Yeah,
who's looking after their interests?
Well, it's ultimately the families that really suffer of the deceased victims.
Oh, Viv, the other thing that's pretty important is they're trying to introduce this tracking system for the worst thugs and offenders in society.
I think that's a brilliant idea.
And that means they'd put ankle bracelets so you can track where these people are going. Yeah. What do you think of that one, Steph?
I think that's a fantastic idea. You wouldn't think it would be too costly, and if they get into certain areas, say a sex offender approaches a school, raises alarm bells, and the police can track him and pull him back into line. And
Viv, do you like the ankle bracelet idea?
Of course I do. I think it's incredibly important that we know the whereabouts of known perpetrators, and particularly in this matter where recently that poor girl was randomly attacked and raped by
Sean Price.
I definitely agree with it, but tell us a little bit more about that one.
Oh, look, this fellow here, he was a sociopath. He was out and about, probably on parole, I think. Is that right?
That's correct,
Steph?
I believe.
And the reality is he was just trying to pick a target. I mean, it could have been anyone. That's why I'm saying we've got to be careful of the indifference in society. We just cannot say, look, it's not happening to us, so don't worry about it. Because once it happens to one of your family members, you will fall away.
What do we do, Tony? This happens time and time again. We know that there's been massive media, certainly surrounding perpetrators of people who are raping and murdering victims who've been out on parole. I mean, what do we do as a system?
Right. Well, I think we've got to be harsher, number one, in terms of jail sentences. If we say it's 30 years, give them 30 years. Two, let's have these ankle bracelets. Maybe education as well, especially when you're dealing with young offenders. What do you think, Steph?
That's correct. Young offenders, get them early. They won't do it in the first place, or less of a chance. I think there needs to be more support in community centres.
We'll keep moving. Just recently, we had this young fellow who went to the aid of one of his friends and got struck and hit the ground and he died.
Yet
another
circumstance of a one-punch hit causing, a fatality. The youths of today, apparently there has been 8 people who have died as a result of a one-punch hit nationally since December 2015. That's an incredible amount of numbers.
Oh, it's outrageous. Steph, I know the mothers of one of the young fellows that died. This is the fellow that was out in Rye and got hit. She has not recovered. That happened a few years ago.
I'm not surprised by that. It's absolutely devastating. It's so tragic.
And I think it comes back to your whole notion of education early on, because not only are the families, the victims' families suffering for years and years to come, but also the perpetrators themselves, sometimes they're drunk and they don't even know what they're doing. They actually suffer, their families suffer. So it really does come down to responsible drinking and really understanding.
And what about drug taking? I mean, what do you do with that?
True.
I mean,
Very
it's
true.
totally out of control. Anyway, I think we should get someone that can talk about this general issue.
Rather than us
what I mean?
just sort of speculating.
But let's start paying attention to the victims and forget about mitigating circumstances for the perpetrators. It's just outrageous. All right, IKEA. Viv, you got young kids. Couple of deaths because the drawers have collapsed on top of the kids.
I actually have these Malm 6 drawers. It's incredibly tragic. Most recently, a 22-month-old child died in the States. The mother actually put her child for a nap to bed during the day. She went in and checked on her baby every 20 minutes or so. And the last time she went in, she looked and couldn't see her baby in his bed, and she just thought he was hiding, and then discovered that the chest of drawers had actually fallen, crushed him, and he had died. I mean, that is just absolutely tragic. The question we ask, IKEA have claimed responsibility. You know, who in this circumstance do we sue? Is there an onus on parents to actually assess the situation themselves? What IKEA are saying is that they actually say we've got to affix these drawers to a wall.
And why don't they give the warnings? They should have given a warning. If you don't affix it, it could cause harm or even death.
Look, I have some drawers that I actually bought from another retailer that I know aren't affixed to a wall, and they are sort of tenuous because they're on a lean. As a parent, as a responsible parent, I really need to be ensuring that they are safe. At the same time, children are children.
Yes.
Children are going to climb. So I think it's really interesting. I mean, in these circumstances, who can the parents sue?
Firstly, I don't think it's good enough for IKEA to simply say, these come with, wall-mountable attachments and therefore the parents should be affixing them to the wall. These shelves or drawers should be created in the first place to be sturdy enough that they don't need to be affixed. A lot of, families...
I do agree with that.
I agree with that, but there are a lot of variables. Old homes, the actual levelling of the ground is, often sort of on a lean, sometimes in the old...
They're almost derelict. They should be given a dereliction.
My house. But, I think... IKEA sometimes, and even all of these, make it yourself cupboards and things. There's so many moving parts to that, and there's a lot of variables in and around this. Make it yourself cupboards.
I know I have to draw my own holes.
Yeah,
they wouldn't line up.
Yeah, I don't know. So who are you suggesting? Can we sue IKEA? Can we?
Yeah, we can sue IKEA.
What about
It's a nervous shock claim.
Yep.
Which is, probably not worth big dollars, but you can sue.
And moving into the PL space, if you.
But they should also be prosecuted, because if they know, and it sounds
this
like
has happened
they knew,
twice before. Toddlers have been killed.
A big company like IKEA will cop a massive fine, but it's peanuts for a company of that size. So really, a director should actually be prosecuted. Now, we've got to come back to something like that too.
And because part of IKEA's appeal is the cheap furniture,
Yes.
I suppose if they made them better so that they were more weighted to the back, then it could increase the cost of the furniture.
Yeah, but what price do you
The
pay?
wood would be expensive.
What price do you put on a life, though?
Exactly.
Yeah, but consumers might not be as prepared to pay for the IKEA furniture. So,
This Grant Hackett is cut loose again.
Yeah,
What's the deal there?
I love watching the trials and tribulations of this gentleman. In recent times, he was on a flight travelling back to Melbourne, allegedly or arguably intoxicated, and he's twisted another passenger's nipples. He's caused him some pain. So, and that passenger, I mean, look, as a male, I know as a female what that might feel like, but as a male, he's still quite scarred by the event. I guess the thing that arises out of this, other than the celebrity status of Grant Hackett and why he's even involved in swimming, is really what's the responsibility of the flight attendants allowing this sort of behaviour to, one, happen, and two, to not...
They can't. You've got the safety of all the other passengers.
So if someone hits somebody or causes some sort of
harm... he can get sued. They can sue Grant Hackett.
He can sue him personally?
He can sue Grant Hackett personally, and if they don't put a stop to it, they can sue the airline as well, because there's no threshold.
But what about if he's intoxicated? If Grant Hackett was intoxicated...
who knows? They maybe got him drunk in the first place by serving him too much alcohol.
He probably shouldn't have been allowed on the flight in the first place.
Well, it's true. That's the other issue. So they shouldn't have allowed him on, number one. Number two, they probably gave him too much alcohol on the plane. Who knows? They should... It's the same as going into a bar.
Athletes can consume alcohol at a different rate to what you and I can. So it's hard to gauge. That's why I asked the question.
I think the airline's totally not off the hook.
I think there was also a question of whether he's on still knocks. He's got a still knocks dependency.
I think that's an excuse, actually. But anyway, we've got to go to the sponsors break. Viv, thanks for coming on board as usual. Always a pleasure.
You. Good to see you.
And after the break, viewers, we've got Graeme Nugent, so stay tuned.
Take a stand.
Viewers, welcome back to the show. As I said before the break, we're very fortunate tonight to have a former client come on and tell us about his experiences, good and bad, under the work cover system. Graeme Nugent. Good evening, Graeme. How are you?
Good evening, Tony. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Graeme, you had a work cover accident and you're working for a horse trainer. And what happened?
Basically, we take the horses down to a mounting yard where the jockeys jump on and put the horses through the
They
work.
parade them around, yep.
And we get on the buggies and take the saddles back from the previous trip. Then go back up and pick the horses up after they've worked. One of the buggies was broken down. We usually have two.
And this is like a golf buggy, isn't it?
Yeah, just a typical golf buggy.
Yep.
And so they seat 4, and then they've got another seat at the back which folds out.
Yep,
And we
yep.
usually put the saddles on that. And
Okay.
because one buggy was broken,
It had a mind of its own, this buggy, didn't it?
yeah, and
It
6 of
reversed
us-
by itself.
Yeah, 6 of us had to jump on plus the saddles.
Oh, okay.
So I was instructed to jump on the back, and I was leaning over the saddles, hanging on, and the driver put his foot down on the accelerator,
And it went
they're-
backwards.
they're actually spring loaded.
Yep.
So when you put your foot down, it's stuck.
Yep.
He turned around and said the buggy's not going anywhere, and then it took off
Backwards.
and backwards into another car and squashed me and
Unbelievable.
another stable hand into the car, and my leg was stuck for 4 or 5 seconds.
So you got crushed effectively.
Yeah.
Steph, on those facts there, you're a common lawyer, right? Do a lot of work cover cases. Negligence, which is one of the most important things.
Yes, most definitely negligence there. The fault of the employer in failing to ensure a safe system of a safe system of work.
Even just failure to maintain.
Failure to
Yeah.
maintain the buggy.
And in
Yeah,
fact,
things.
we'll get this later on. This particular buggy was already defective, and they knew it had a mind of its own. Where instead of going forwards, it used to go back without even touching it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's bizarre. It's like the poltergeist stuff, Steph.
And awareness right there as well. So
Yeah. So I mean, fault is not an issue. Anyway, Graeme, you had your accident. Then what happened? Put in a claim, obviously.
Yeah, I put in a claim, and I was under the impression that I'd have an operation which the insurance company passed to have approved. I had that, and I was thinking that that'd be it and I'd get back to work. But after my operation, I had a blood clot in my leg.
Yep.
So I was on
So they put you on
warfarin.
warfarin.
Yeah, for 6 weeks. And in turn, all my veins in my legs blew up. So varicose veins really blew up. I did manage to get back to light duties at work, but my leg was still sore and it was getting aggravated.
And there's not really much light duties in that industry, is there?
Nah, it was more like looking after a water walker, just controlling the water walker. But I wasn't allowed to handle horses. So
Okay. Steph, when someone like Graeme has an injury, what are the benefits available to the worker? Like, there's medical expenses and weekly payments. And
So it's important to lodge an incident form report with the employer first off, so it's recorded with the employer. You need to lodge a claim within 30 days of the injury, and the work cover agent will respond within 28 days as to whether or not the claim's accepted or rejected.
Can I just stop you for a sec? With these claims, I find that more often than not, they're not very accurate in terms of description of injuries, and more importantly, how they got injured. That is absolutely critical, isn't it?
It is absolutely critical for just down the track. If you were to lodge a common law negligence claim, if Graeme were to just say,
I got hit.
injured, I got hit,
Yeah.
then the employer could say, well, what are you talking about? Where's the negligence? Your story's potentially changed.
Yes. Now, in Graeme's case, he's gone back to work. For the hours he's working, they pay him, and for the difference, work cover pay, correct?
That's correct. The work cover pay the top up, not at the full rate.
It's 80%.
80%.
But Graeme, in the first period that you were off work, you also got top-up benefits from the employer? Did you get paid up to the 100%?
yeah, I think I got 100%, yes.
Okay. And that varies from industry to industry, doesn't it, Steph? In some instances, you get make-up pay for a year, in some 6 months, and in other cases, longer. So your rate is 80%, and the employer has to make up the difference.
Oh, it's the employer's election.
Yep. Now, Graeme, you went back to work. What happened?
My leg was
Blew up.
flaring up.
Yep.
And the doctors were thinking this isn't right. what's happening. So we did another MRI scan, and
Yep.
I actually tore the meniscus again in my knee.
Okay.
At work, I was asked to do things outside my capacity,
Okay.
which in a stable environment, it is very hard to. You don't do the same things every day, and
No.
circumstances can change. So a couple of times.
And I mean, manoeuvring horses, they're beasts. They're 550 kilos, aren't
Yeah.
they? If not more.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be easy to cart them along if you've got problems with your knees.
Yeah, exactly.
And Steph, with in Graeme's case, he had light work certificates. I mean, it's really not going to work, is it?
That's correct. The work cover agent usually brings in return to work rehabilitators, as well as the employers. That they have a duty of care to ensure that the work duties comply with the certificates of capacity and the restrictions contained
That's
therein.
it. And it's important that, Graeme, it was always important to make sure you kept your doctors fully appraised of what was going on.
Yeah, I tried to let my employer know as well.
Yep.
Even though work cover.
Were they sympathetic to your cause?
Yes.
The employer?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Well, that's good.
And so your leg blew up and eventually you got the surgery, correct?
Well, I had to have the surgery, but because, as I was saying earlier, because of the varicose veins, they come across my knee.
Yep.
So I was advised to have the varicose vein stripped before having the
Meniscus, yep.
arthroscope.
Arthroscopy,
And,
yep.
But in turn, the
Yep.
insurance company didn't want to pay for that. So
Okay.
that
So
helped
what
me
happened?
out.
You had to go to conciliation with that?
Yeah, had to go to
Okay.
conciliation, but it took about probably 18 months
To get the surgery done?
Them approved. Yeah.
Steve, that's one of the problems with the system. The delays could in fact stifle your rehabilitation.
Oh, absolutely. And I've seen it a number of times. More often with people with back injuries, and the longer you delay surgery, it can quite often
Have a permanent injury as opposed to
permanent
one, yeah.
injury and less effectiveness once
Yep.
you do eventually undertake surgery.
Yep,
So.
yep. We're going to go to a sponsors break, so we'll take this up. If you'll stay tuned after the break, we'll take up this story with Graeme Nugent. Jules, welcome back to the show. We're talking to Graeme Nugent and Stephanie in relation to this experience of yours, Graeme.
Yep.
Graeme, when you had to have this surgery, it was delayed by 18 months, and that caused a lot of grief, didn't it?
Yeah, like not only did I lose a lot of sleep, like I couldn't sleep at night because the heat in my legs.
Yep.
It led to depression. I felt like a burden on my family. They'd
Yep.
have to come down and help me do gardening. I couldn't, do all the things that I could
Yep, yep.
usually. So
And Graeme, you were one of the fortunate ones that were on payments during this period.
yeah, exactly.
What would have happened if you weren't getting paid?
Well, it was hard enough to even make me house payments just on that wage because I had a second job as well.
Yep.
But yeah, I can't imagine what would have happened without those payments.
Steph, being work cover and common lawyers, our biggest problem is people that aren't on payments.
Yeah, it's
Isn't that right?
difficult because if they've got a common law claim, it's not necessarily going to settle early on in the piece. Generally, we recommend that clients approach Centrelink, and so they at least have some benefits during the period.
But those benefits are generally pretty small, aren't they?
But they are quite small.
And sadly, the experiences I've had over my period in the law is people losing houses, families breaking up because of all the financial and other stresses, even just the pain.
Yeah, it's
Having to
tragic.
put up with the pain, yeah. So it's absolutely critical as a lawyer that when someone gets injured, that the claim's prosecuted as quickly as possible.
That's right. That's correct. Lodge a claim. If it's rejected, dispute that. often it can be referred to the
Keep it
medical
moving.
panel.
Yeah,
Keep it
yeah.
moving, and it tends to resolve a lot quicker than a common law claim.
Graeme, just curiously, from the date that you got injured to the date you did settle your claim eventually. Don't tell us what you got, but how long was the process? How long did you take all up?
I'd say 3 years.
Okay, 3 years. That's not a bad time frame, isn't it, Steph?
No, it's not too bad.
Yeah, yeah.
The minimum you can bring a claim in the first place is 18 months following your injury.
Exactly.
You've got to lodge a serious injury application, but before doing that, you request your clinical records and prepare an affidavit, and then so you've got 120 days in which a serious injury response is provided, and it can resolve at that stage, but more often you'll need to issue an originating motion in court.
Graeme, what if I said to you that in most instances, and especially in probably the larger firms, you'll find that you could have been hanging around for 6 years?
Yeah, I couldn't imagine that.
You wouldn't be able to do it, would you?
No, it was
So-
bad enough as it was, and yeah, I couldn't imagine how bad it'd be.
Now, you talked about the various treatments you needed surgery and that, but you also took a lot of medications and, yeah.
Yeah, took a lot of medications, which was hard to deal with, which I never used to take any. But
And did you find that you were getting followed around, or did you have that feeling that you were being surveyed by the insurance company?
I'm not sure, but I just kept it in.
You were wary
in
of
my
that?
head, yeah, like when I'm going and doing the grocery shopping and things like that. That even if you felt that your knee wasn't that sore that day that you could lift groceries, you shouldn't, because it's
Yeah.
only on the limitations.
Steph, the system covers for a lot of things. When we talk about medical and associated expenses, what does it pick up?
Well, it picks up consultations with any treaters, GP, specialist appointments, gardening, home help, scans, medication, physio,
osteopath. Yeah, covers all of
whole
that, doesn't it?
range.
Yeah. And in some instances, when you're dealing with the most severely injured people, even renovating your home to suit your needs, correct?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Modifications.
You
to
get
your
that a
home.
lot in serious work cover cases and also transport accidents where the person's probably in a wheelchair. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Graeme, what are the worst experiences you had during your time that you were on the system?
Just more changing case managers and having to explain the whole thing again and go over the whole case and where you're up to. Also, just when you put in a
Request?
a request for a gym swim membership. I have to do one every 3 months. It's kind of frustrating.
Yep.
Instead of doing 6. And,
Yep.
and they might say, I didn't get the form. I still haven't got the form. Got to go back to your doctor, send it again. So I found that either faxing or email a picture of it.
And keep copies,
say,
huh?
Yeah, and contact your case manager and say, did you receive my form?
Yep,
Because otherwise you can end up,
Yep. Graeme, having the right lawyer, critical to the case?
Oh, definitely.
Yep.
My lawyer changed probably 6 months into my case.
Yep.
And Amelia at the St.
Nowicki
Albans.
Carbone, yep.
Nowicki Carbone. And I think with her advice and just...
She's a bulldog.
yeah, she is. And
Yeah.
always makes you feel like you've done nothing wrong.
Yep.
You can email her or call her at any time. And I thought I might be annoying
So
her
she
at
put you at
times,
ease,
but-
didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Steph, the significance of having a good lawyer. I mean, you're at Nowicki Carbone, you're in the work cover department, you're a senior lawyer there. What do you say about that? To the public?
It's crucial. We all try to be available on call if clients have questions. We're always available. We try to speak plain English, and always approachable.
And you also need someone competent, don't you, Graeme? I mean, bottom line, someone that's got a bit of oomph.
Definitely. And not only that, if you can't get in contact with your lawyer, they've usually got a good sidekick, which Amelia's has Christina.
Yep.
And she's very competent and would know a lot of the answers without even going to see Amelia. So
I'm sure if you didn't get them, you would have given me a ring, correct?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, of course. Now, look, what are the do's and the don'ts under the system? Before, off air, you were saying that make sure you report the injury.
Yeah, reporting the injury from, to be honest with you, I I was in pain, but I wasn't sure if it was just my knee was going to blow up, and I wasn't even going to report the injury at the office, and I thought I better, because
In case.
what if it is? Yeah.
Yes.
And then, yeah, at least you know then when it's fresh in your memory and you've written it down exactly what happened and who was there and all the circumstances.
Steph, it's absolutely critical, right, that clients do things correctly. Isn't that right? They've got to report, lodge a claim, document it accurately. Don't misstate facts. Do you agree with all that?
I agree entirely.
And you as a lawyer, you'd like to see them sooner rather than later?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Viewers, we've come to the end of the show. Graeme, thank you so much for coming on board and enlightening the viewers. Steph, as always, a pleasure to have you on. Viewers, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for future episodes. Go to our YouTube for past episodes. Go to our social media platforms, and always remember to stay safe.